She passed away on a Tuesday in October, which felt wrong. Somehow, October was her month. The persimmons were still on the trees. The kitchen still smelled like her. This is the story of what she did next. Sora's grandmother had died on a Tuesday in October, which felt wrong somehow. October was her month. The persimmons were still on the trees. The kitchen still smelled like her. The funeral had been small. The food afterward had been enormous. The whole village had cooked, had brought dishes, had filled every surface of the long table in the main room. Sora had eaten none of it. She had come back to the kitchen alone, after everyone had gone. She had stood very still in the center of the room and looked at everything. Her grandmother had cooked every day of her life. Sora had watched her do it from the age of 4, perched on the high stool by the window, legs dangling, watching those hands move. The hands had known everything. They had known when the dough was right without testing it. They had known how much salt, by the sound it made hitting the water. They had never, not once, measured anything. She was tired in the way that sleep does not fix. The kind of tired that comes from being the person who watched everything and wrote nothing down, from trusting that there would always be more time to learn. There is a particular grief in realizing you were always the student, and the teacher is gone. There were recipes, dozens of them, but when Sora unfolded the first one, her chest did something complicated. Not a single number, not a single gram or cup or minute, just instructions. For someone who already knew, the measurements read enough until it smells right, when you know. Sora sat down slowly at the table, the papers spread around her, the rain now steady outside. She did not know it yet, but she would spend the entire winter in this kitchen, and by spring, she would have learned something. Her grandmother had never once needed to teach her directly. She folded the first paper carefully and put it in her apron pocket. Then she stood up, and she lit the stove. She had chosen the soup, the one her grandmother made every winter, the one that had no name and no written recipe, and that Sora had eaten perhaps 100 times, without ever once asking what was in it. She had not thought she would ever need to know. The kitchen held her. Warm lamplight, rain on the roof, a low hiss from the stove, the tick of the old clock on the wall. The blue flame caught and held. She watched it for a moment, the way you watch something you are about to ask a great deal of. The paper was still in her pocket. She had not opened it, not yet. Outside the small window, the terraced herb garden was dark and wet. The sage, the thyme, the rosemary her grandmother had planted before Sora was born. The cast iron pots hung from the ceiling hooks, exactly as they always had, each one worn smooth in the same places, the places where her hands had held them 10,000 times before. Sora's hands rested on the table. She looked at them for a long moment. They were her grandmother's hands, almost. The same long fingers, the same tendency to stain, almost. The clock on the wall ticked, time passing, the way it does in a quiet kitchen, steadily, without urgency. She reached for the first root vegetable and held it over the empty pot. A moment of hesitation. Then she let it go. Steam began to rise, small and tentative at first, the way all beginnings are. She tasted it from the spoon. A careful pause. Her eyes went inward. The spoon lowered slowly. Not right, not yet. She poured it out. She started again. This was how the first week went. She would come to the kitchen in the late afternoon, after finishing her work, and she would try again. Each time she consulted the folded paper, which told her only root vegetables, something bitter, broth from bones. And what you remember, the paper had one line at the bottom. She had not noticed the first time. She read it, folded the paper back, and did not speak for a long moment. She had not told anyone about that line. Maybe she never would. The recipe paper lay unfolded on the table, the words visible now, sparse, impressionistic, written in her grandmother's looping hand. Root vegetables, something bitter, broth from bones, and what you remember. The first attempt was a failure in the way that only cooking can fail. Not dangerous, not inedible, just entirely wrong. It smelled almost right, the way a copy of a painting looks almost right from across the room until you get close enough to see that something in the light is missing. She began asking the village. This was not easy for Sora. She was not someone who asked for things easily. But grief, it turns out, has a way of loosening the parts of you that have always been held too tight. The neighbor, Mrs. Tanaka, 73, who had known Sora's grandmother for 50 years, did not give her a recipe. She gave her something better. She gave her a memory, the way the kitchen had smelled on winter mornings when they were young women together. The particular way Sora's grandmother had held the ladle tilted slightly, always to the left. The fact that she had always added one thing at the very end that she never told anyone about. The tea was too hot, but she drank it anyway. The burn a small, acceptable price for the warmth of sitting in a kitchen that smelled like someone who remembered. She went back to her own kitchen and tried again. This time she tilted the ladle. It was not right yet, but it was closer. Weeks passed. November became the kind of November that makes the world feel very small and the kitchen feel very large. She visited Mrs. Tanaka twice more. She spoke to the woman who ran the village market, who had bought vegetables from her grandmother every Thursday without fail for 30 years. She spoke to her own mother once in a long phone call she had been putting off since October. Her mother cried a little. So did Sora, quietly, turned away from the window. She had not cried at the funeral. She cried now, on the step, in the dark, talking about soup. The paper had one line at the bottom she had seen, but not yet let herself read fully. She folded it back. She had not told anyone about that line. Maybe she never would. She wiped her face quickly with her apron, then looked up at the evening sky with something that was not quite a smile, but was not sorrow either. She went back inside. The door closed behind her. The kitchen waited, warm and patient as it had always been. December arrived. The village put up its lanterns. The market smelled like roasting chestnuts and cold air. She had started to understand something about the recipe, not the ingredients. Those she had largely reconstructed. Something else. Something about why there were no measurements. There is a kind of knowledge that cannot be written down because it lives in the body, not the mind. Her grandmother had cooked from that place her entire life. The recipe was never meant to be followed. It was meant to be felt. She cooked without looking at it. Her hands moving with more confidence now, reaching for things without hesitation, adjusting heat by touch, tasting and adjusting and tasting again, the kitchen filled with something. Not just steam and warmth, something more specific, something she recognized from childhood, and she thought, quietly, to no one, that perhaps this was what the recipe had always been. Not instructions, a door, and she was finally learning how to open it. The color was deepening, the surface just beginning to move with heat, something shifting in the pot, the way a song shifts when the last instrument finally joins. Christmas passed. The village gathered, as it always did, in the square. Sora brought soup. Not her grandmother's soup, not yet, her own soup, still learning, still becoming. She carried the large covered pot carefully through the village lantern-lit street, breath visible, face soft with effort, and something like hope. Mrs. Tanaka tasted it first. She did not say anything immediately. She held the bowl in both hands, the steam rising, and she was quiet for a moment that felt very long. Then she said, "There is something of her in this." And then her mother said the thing that changed everything, not loudly, not dramatically, but the way you say something you have been holding for so long, it has become part of your bones. She said, "Your grandmother never thought the recipe was the point. She always said, the point was the person standing at the stove." Sora sat with that for a long time. Then she went back inside. The fullness of being seen, of having carried something forward, of having arrived, somewhere she did not know she had been walking toward. For a moment, standing in the lamplight with the snow just beginning, everything felt exactly right, complete, like the ending of something. And that was the moment Sora realized she had not yet read the last line on the recipe paper, the one she had folded away and not thought about since November. Her hand moved instinctively to her apron pocket, where the paper still lived. Pausing there, not yet. The story was not quite finished. Wide shot of the village square at night, lanterns glowing, snow beginning to fall gently, Sora a small warm figure at the center of it all. January is the quietest month in the village. The lanterns come down. The market runs shorter hours. The hills go gray and still. Sora came back to the kitchen and unfolded the paper. January morning light from the small window. A cup of tea beside her hand. The paper fully open. At last, she read the last line, the one she had seen in November and folded away. It read, "Add this only when you are ready." Then the next line, in smaller writing, "You will know when." She sat with it for a long time. She understood. now what she had not understood in November. Being ready was not about skill. It was not about getting the recipe right. It was about being willing to make it your own, to let your version exist alongside hers, not instead of it. It was the same feeling she had had as a child watching her grandmother cook, safe and small, and exactly where she was supposed to be. Except now, she was the one at the stove. She made the soup from memory, from the weeks of trying and failing and asking and listening and tasting, from the tilt of the ladle and the smell of it and what her mother had said on the step in December. The kitchen filled with something, not just steam and warmth, something more specific, something she recognized from childhood. She paused mid-stir, her eyes closing briefly, just breathing. And at the very end, she added the thing, the last thing, the thing no one had told her, the thing she simply knew. Standing there in January with the rain on the roof and her grandmother's pot on her stove, the color deepened. The surface shifted into its final register. Something arriving that had always been there waiting to be found. She lifted the lid. She tasted once. She set the spoon down. Then she did something she had not done in the kitchen since October. She smiled. Not at anyone. Not at anything in particular. Just at the fact of it. She placed the lid back on the pot, tilting it slightly left the way her grandmother always did, and then stood very still, her hands resting on the handles, her head bowed just slightly, her hands pressed gently on the handles. A single, very slow breath moved through her. The soup simmered warmly beneath her hands. She did not move for a long time. She brought it to Mrs. Tanaka that afternoon. She did not call ahead. She simply appeared at the door with the pot, the way her grandmother used to. The door opened. Warm light spilled across the snow step. Sora's small, quiet smile. The pot carried carefully in both arms. Mrs. Tanaka tasted it. She did not speak for a long time. Then she looked at Sora. Really looked. And she said simply, "Yes. Yes." That was all. One word, containing everything. Sora's eyes went briefly bright. That involuntary brightening she could not have stopped even if she had tried. She looked quickly down at her own bowl. Then back up, composed. They ate together in the small kitchen while the snow fell outside. There was no ceremony. There was soup and 2 bowls and the sound of winter. The kitchen window showed the snow outside. 2 teacups reflected in the glass. The fire crackling in the corner. Everything quiet and exactly right. That evening, Sora went home, the empty pot tucked under her arm. She moved lighter now, lighter than she had in weeks, perhaps lighter than she had since October. The cottage waited for her at the end of the village lane, warm amber light glowing from the small window. Snow settled on the roof. Home. January is the quietest month in the village. The lanterns come down, the market runs shorter hours, the hills go gray and still. Sora came back to the kitchen and unfolded the paper. For the last time, she was ready now. She had always known she would know when she was. She understood, now, what she had not understood in November. Being ready was not about skill. It was not about getting the recipe right. It was about being willing to make it her own, to let her version exist alongside her grandmother's, not instead of it. It was the same feeling she had had as a child watching rain, safe and small, and exactly where she was supposed to be. Except now, she was the one at the stove. She made the soup from memory, from the weeks of trying and failing and asking and listening and tasting, from the tilt of the ladle and the smell of it and what her mother had said on the step in December. Her hands moved with confidence now, clean, unhurried strokes, the vegetables yielding naturally, hands working without thinking, the body knowing completely. She poured the broth in, deep amber, fragrant, steam rising immediately on contact, the pot filling with warmth and depth. She stirred. The ladle tilted slightly to the left, instinctively now, the way it had been tilted in this kitchen for decades before her. And at the very end, she added the thing, the last thing, the thing no one had told her, the thing she simply knew, standing there in January with the rain on the roof and her grandmother's pot on her stove. Something small entered the liquid, a tiny ripple moving outward from the center and fading, the color deepening very slightly, the soup shifting into its final register. She lifted the lid. She tasted once. She set the spoon down. Then she placed the lid back on the pot. Not hidden, not displayed, just there, like a fact she had finally made peace with. Tilted slightly left, the way her grandmother always did, the lid settled. Steam exhaled at the edge. Everything complete, everything hers. She stood very still, her hands resting on the handles, her head bowed just slightly. The soup simmered warmly beneath her hands. She did not move for a long time. She brought it to Mrs. Tanaka that afternoon. She did not call ahead. She simply appeared at the door with the pot, the way her grandmother used to. Mrs. Tanaka tasted it. She did not speak for a long time. Then she looked at Sora, really looked, and she said simply, "Yes, yes," that was all. One word, containing everything. They ate together in the small kitchen while the snow fell outside. There was no ceremony. There was soup in 2 bowls and the sound of winter. That evening, Sora went home and wrote the recipe down. Every ingredient, every step. And at the bottom, in the space where measurements would go, she wrote, "Enough until it smells right, when you know." And then, in smaller letters beneath, "Add love last, it keeps the longest." She looked at what she had written. A small, quiet expression of completion, the pen resting beside the notebook. Snow falling outside the window, the pot clean and hanging back on its hook. The pot on its hook. Returned. At rest. Complete. 2 recipe papers side by side on the worn kitchen table. The old and the new. The grandmothers and the granddaughters. Both in the same kitchen. Both true. The kitchen window showed the snow outside. Warm amber lamplight reflected in the glass. The exterior cold and quiet. The interior warm and held, everything in its place. The pot on its hook, the notebook on the table, the window showing snow, the kitchen full of presents without a person. Outside the window, the herb garden was beginning. Snow still on the ground, but the first faint green of early growth visible at the soil line. Life, coming back, the way it always does. Sora's hands rested gently on either side of the table. The grandmother's recipe paper on the left, the new notebook recipe on the right, old and new, both hers now. The world was quietly transitioning, the worst of winter behind her, the warmth ahead. The cottage window lit amber in the pale dusk light. She stood at the window and looked out at the garden, a quiet, settled expression, the kind that only comes when you have finally arrived somewhere you did not know you were walking toward. The final lines of the new recipe, in her own hand, looping and certain, like her grandmother's. Add love last, it keeps the longest. The kitchen settled into the deep warmth of evening. The fire reduced to embers. The lamp turned low. The pot on its hook. Everything at peace. Late winter dawn over the village lane. Pale gold-gray first light. The bare trees with the very first bud swellings. The lane empty and beginning. She tied the apron strings behind her back. Morning light from the small window. The kitchen ready and waiting. A quiet, easy expression. The gas flame caught and held. A new day beginning. The pot at home on the stove. Entirely, completely at home. No grief in her expression. Just quiet ease and belonging. The kitchen hers now. Completely. The grief transformed. 2 recipe papers on the worn table, seen from above. The grandmother's on the left. The granddaughter's on the right. A ceramic teacup at the top. Morning light falling across all 3. The terraced herb garden in late winter. Small green shoots just emerging from dark soil at the edge of the snow. Soft, pale gold light. The stone terrace patient and warm. She turned off the lamp. The kitchen shifting from warm gold to soft ember glow only. The day ending. The warmth remaining. The village hillside at last winter light. The small stone cottage visible in the middle distance, with warm amber window light. The village quiet, the world at rest, her hands resting completely still on the worn kitchen table. No tension, no searching, just resting, at peace. The grandmother's original recipe and the new notebook, side by side. One warm lamp casting gold light on both. 2 generations, one inheritance. Seen from outside through the small lit window, a warm, blurred shape moving quietly inside in the golden light. The exterior stone cold and dark, the interior warm and held. She closed the notebook. A single, deliberate, gentle motion. The cover settling. Her hands resting on it for a moment after. The recipe kept. The story complete. The old kitchen clock on the wall. Late evening. Ember glow from the dying fire reflected in the clock face. The kitchen deeply still. Time at rest. She stood in the kitchen doorway and looked back in. The same doorway. Entirely different feeling. Not grief. Not uncertainty. Just a last look at something that was hers. The kitchen warm and waiting ahead. A single slow breath. She did not move for a long time. The kitchen empty but full of presence. The pot on its hook. The notebook closed on the table. The lamp low. The fire soft. Everything at peace. Deep winter night over the village. The world soft blue, black and quiet. One stone cottage window glowing warm amber among the dark shapes of the sleeping village. One light in the dark, the fire reduced to glowing orange embers. The kitchen behind in warm darkness, the embers casting a soft red-orange glow across the stone floor and table edge. The last warmth of the day, the cast iron pot hanging on its ceiling hook, the closed notebook on the table below, everything in its place. The story at rest, wide, close shot of the terraced herb garden at dawn. Pale gold first light on old snow, one small, unmistakable green shoot pushing up through the white. Completely still, patient, the snow just beginning to soften around it. Life continuing, the way it always does. One more morning, the pot on the burner, the ladle in her hand, tilted slightly to the left, an expression of complete quiet ease and belonging, the kitchen warm and familiar all around her. Add love last, it keeps the longest.